with us, and then recently I listened to a podcast that represented, very negative views on what we're doing as far as responsive learning. So just to bring everybody up to date, I did again send an email. Responsive classroom was approved by the board in early 2020, so I should say the prior board, because Mr. Fishel was not on at the time. In 2020, 2021, responsive classroom training was provided to instructional coaches, K-8 teachers, and high school special ed. And at this time, they've been applying what they're learning. So again, this is professional development, it's not curriculum, so I just want to make sure we're really all clear on that. And they've been applying what they're learning. I did reach out, I was asking some questions, how are things going? A lot of favorable comments on how the kids are reacting to responsive classroom. But I know that, again, you have concerns, so I guess we've heard about it a couple times, and I just want to ask, what is your ask? So I want to go and put this to bed.
Yeah, I think that I talked with Mr. Hach about this, and we discussed maybe setting up a work session. Now we're lining up work sessions. I would just make a note that 15 states have now made it illegal. And
I want to be clear, though, that they make this responsive classroom, that they make
well,
social emotional learning, or do they make?
It's not responsive classroom by name. It's the social emotional learning tenets along with the CRT tenets. And these things in the bills and the legislation are not named by name. It is the subject matter that is being presented and taught that is made illegal. And so certainly anyone can do their research. Montana, Iowa, Florida, Utah, Idaho, North Dakota, Texas, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia, New Hampshire, Mississippi, and Alabama, and look at their laws to see what they actually say. And 19 other states are working on similar language to make it illegal. So I think if we have 2/3 of our states making it illegal, we need to take a serious look at removing it.
So your ask then is for us to remove it?
Well,
As
if we're not going to have a
professional
work session, I'll make a resolution. If we're going to have a work session, we can discuss.
I guess I'm trying to ask, that's what you're asking us, right? Is that you would like to see us
That's what I
remove
would
it?
move to, yes.
Right.
So let me make sure I'm understanding. You want us to remove responsive classroom as professional development for our teachers and staff. I'm just asking, like, is it?
The whole responsive classroom curriculum would be removed.
It's professional development for teachers.
It came in through curriculum, and it is curriculum, and that's how it entered the school.
But it's not curriculum.
It's not curriculum, that's what I'm asking.
So
It's
I
professional
have
development.
some background information. I think we'll probably end up at a work session, I
Thank you.
suspected. So I brought some information. It is not a curriculum. The curriculum implies that there's a set of standards that we're teaching to children. We are not doing that. This was professional development that was provided to teachers to help them get better at their craft. And we do that all the time with teachers. So I have some information here that you can take a look at.
Yeah, just
and you
as
can
a
have-
note, I looked at the training manual for the teachers, and responsive classroom asks that the teachers spend 50% of their time doing this program.
Mr. Fishel, I'm going to very respectfully, I looked also, it says the responsive classroom states that social emotional learning and teaching kids those tenets are as important as academics, but I did not, so if you could show me where it says 50% of the time needs to be spent, that would be helpful to me, because we don't do that. We don't spend 50% of our time on social emotional learning, but I couldn't find that. And I know that you have said that before.
Yeah, so when someone says it's as important, is that equal to, less, or greater than?
So I guess that's your interpretation, that's not mine.
So as important is not equal to?
When you're dividing time up, no.
Well,
I don't
as
think
important
it
is
means
not
equal amount
equal
of time.
to. Okay, I just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah, and if you look at a schedule in an elementary or a middle school or a high school, there's not time carved out that is equal to academics by any means.
And I understand that.
Mr. Hach, you have sat on the programs committee for years. I think you know that academics are extremely important to me and to this district, and we're not spending 50% of our time on social emotional learning.
Right. And
That's
I didn't say we are spending 50% of our time. I said in the manual, it asks that it's as important as academics. So it asks for equal time. And I didn't say we were spending that amount of time with a brand new program. Normally you would grow into that. So certainly at the outset it wouldn't be 50%, and that should be understood by everybody. So it's not 50% right now, but the teacher's manual the training manual certainly says it's as important as academics.
Yes, and there is much research out there that shows that supporting students' social emotional growth is imperative for them to be able to learn.
Right.
I did not provide that research, but I certainly can to the board if you are interested in how student engagement affects student performance and achievement. That is a hugely researched area, and absolutely I could provide that to you. I did not. All I put in there was addressing some of the concerns that I have heard, maybe some of the information that has been shared that's not entirely accurate. I did the overview of the elementary and the middle school program, so you'll see what Mr. Fishel is referring to, where they say it's as important. I don't necessarily disagree with that. And then I included the article that you gave to us at the programs meeting about superintendents indicating that teachers are leaving the profession, and to lose one would be detrimental. It's just people are leaving as fast as they can. The article goes on to say, however, that part of what teachers want to get back to is building relationships for students. And so if we allow them to do that and create those relationships where students can learn and to grow, we're not teaching that one group is better than another. We're not playing white privilege bingo. We're not doing that here. The beauty of local control of schools is that we get to use a program that will help professional development for our teachers, that will help them get better at their craft, and make sure that we implement it as best as we see fit in Riverside Local School District. Not how Painesville City does it, not how Shaker Heights does it, not how South Euclid Lyndhurst does it, but how Riverside sees it best to be implemented so that we can support the growth and development of our students.
And so thank you for that explanation, and I would add that responsive classroom, if you go on their website, is loaded with the word equity. I think it's 20 times in the first 3 pages of their website, and they're all about creating equity. Now, do we understand what equity means? It doesn't mean equitable. Equity means the same outcome for everybody.
It does not mean that to me.
Yeah.
And so
Okay,
when you
so
say we,
what does it mean to
when
you?
you say we may not have the same understanding. So, you know what I mean? So that is something perhaps for the board to discuss, what that means to Riverside Local School District. Because as an educator, I have an understanding. I don't believe any child should ever be made to feel less than any other child, ever. I don't care who you are. Every child should be lifted up of their own values and attributes and be able to succeed as best they can, no matter where they come from, who they are, or what background they have. That's the goal that I have for all of our students here. So when we talk about what does equity mean, I don't dive that deep into it because I know my core beliefs are every child should be lifted up, each individual child and be able to perform to the best of their abilities. And what we can do as teachers and educators to do that, that's what we should be doing.
So thank you for that. And so when Responsive Classroom from Castle Select says equity time after time after time on their website, you don't fully understand what they mean by equity?
No, that's not correct. So I would prefer that you, no, that's not correct.
So
But Castle doesn't publish Responsive Classroom. They provided an endorsement of the program, much like ODE has endorsed Riverside High School, and we hang their banners in our cafeteria. World News has given us accolades, and we've hung those banners. So companies, organizations endorse programs all the time. Castle is not a parent company of Center for Responsive Schools, and they don't publish this Responsive Classroom.
So let me, if I may, just jump in. So I previously have been on the curriculum committee for several terms, probably 5 or 6 years or more even. And I certainly understand your focus and your commitment to academics in Riverside, and I also recognize that there are elements of, in other schools that are not, elements of SEL that are in other schools that are not here. But I do think that it would behoove us to have a discussion to understand what is going on, and so that we are all, so we as a board can present to the community what we view and where the lines are, and what's acceptable and what's not. Because there is going to be continued pressure, I believe, for the district to move in an SEL direction from the outside, not necessarily from the inside, but I believe that it would be, having a thorough conversation on this would be useful. And frankly, would be in line with our responsibilities as a board. So, but I don't know if we're getting any more utility out of this meeting, but I would strongly recommend having a work session. I know we're piling things up, and we might as well, make it a full-time job for July, but or August. But I do think that it's we all I think everybody here is committed to providing the best education possible for Riverside, but we need to bring in other alternative views so that at least we understand each other and can move forward, hopefully, as a unified body in what Riverside is.
Mrs. Rossi, did you have something?
So interestingly, when we talk about social emotional learning, when we talk about this program, Responsive Classroom, and it's my experience in the workplace that organizations all the time are trying to say we want our staff to have professional development, we want them to learn, we want them to grow, and in order to do that, we have to reach them where they are. It's the same thing that goes on in school, except I'm not a teacher teaching students. I'm a leader in my organization, like trying to develop my staff. And I could have 3 people doing the same job, and they all come from a different place in life, and I have to recognize those things. I see it as the same type of thing that you're like, I'm trying to teach my managers how to approach different people and individuals and backgrounds and things that people come to the table with at work. We all bring baggage. Kids bring baggage to school. Employees bring baggage to work. We bring baggage to the board table. I mean, that's what I hear, that you're trying to give our staff professional development and how to deal with those kinds of issues and help children learn. It's no different than what I do at my job when I'm trying to develop my staff so that they can be better staff people. So I just want to say, like, I understand what you're saying, and it's not a matter of focusing on one word of equitable. It's focusing on, from my perspective, where is everybody? Because they're all in a different place, and we just need to be successful. And so,
well, I think it's been focusing too, like on the whole child. I have not talked to a teacher yet in this district that has not said that they felt that they didn't have a more successful year this year because of this professional development. They felt closer to their kids. They felt like they knew their students better. That it was extremely valuable. They're not doing anything.
The social and emotional competencies include cooperation, assertiveness, responsibility, empathy, and self-control. The academic competencies are academic mindset, perseverance, learning strategies, and academic behaviors. One thing I've learned in being in the district for such a long time is if something is happening in the classroom that shouldn't, I typically hear about it rather quickly, and I haven't had it.
What they're doing is a social emotional learning, though, is they're getting us in between.
Yeah, Superintendent Kalos, if you recall, when I did the presentation at the curriculum meeting, empathy and a lot of the other positive words were included in the presentation from a group that said they were doing wonderful things for kids. If you remember what the name of that group was, it was a satanic group. So using words and how they're used and how they're presented, that's all good to sell something. But what's the goal and where did it come from? I mean, this whole CRT and SEL program came out of Frankfurt, out of the Institute out of Germany, and it's Marxist. So if we look at the origins of it, the Alice Bailey woman that had a good part to do with the development of all this program says she got her information from spirits, from dead people. So I think we need to know what we're bringing in to the school and to the kids, and I think we need to take a closer look at that.
I understand. I understand that, but also understand, and I don't want to get into a huge debate here over this, but the information that you gave us only one sheet was from Responsive Classroom. The other ones were from Castle, Better Lesson, Reimagining Integration, Diverse and Equitable Schools. That was out of Shaker Heights, I believe, runs that program. We don't. Center for Responsive Schools, Center for Responsive Schools, Better Lesson, that was Mentor uses that program for what I understand. Better Lesson again, the Equity Collaborative. I haven't even heard of these different places. It's not Responsive Classroom. The only one we got from Responsive Classroom out of all that information was it was from Margie Dorhurst. She was a consulting teacher and curriculum and instructional designer for Responsive Classroom, and they did a webinar posted to their website. And it was how to continue to be an effective teacher while teaching virtually.
Do you not have the first 3 pages from Responsive Classroom that named equity 20 times?
I have all the training material right here.
The first 3 pages in that presentation were from the Responsive Classroom.
Talking about this one here?
I'd have to look at it again, but it's from the Responsive Classroom website. There were 3 pages. And we could talk about that in the work session, because we're certainly not going to solve that problem here. But I am working hard to remove this from the district, and will continue to do so until it's removed.
So I guess I would ask, we have a lot of information you gave us that does not have sites. I have no idea where this came from. So again, trying to be open-minded and research what you've given me. I have nothing to research.
Well, I think
there.
the Satanic Temple, you could Google that and find out immediately.
But I mean, I think it's responsible. Can you send us the sources? Because I think that's responsible for us, for us
So
to have.
you would like
know.
the sources from each of the papers that
Yeah, if it's
were in the
not here.
presentation?
Correct, if it's
I
not
can do
here.
that for you. I'll do that work for you. I'll get that for you.
And again, I think when you look at this, cooperation, assertiveness, responsibility, empathy, self-control, I mean, those aren't bad behaviors.
It all sounds good, right?
And I guess that's more for the topic, but yeah, if you could send us the sources, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Sure.
And I think a working session is definitely needed so that we can.
We definitely need a work session, because there are elements here on the surface that does sound like a reasonable way forward, but I'm not sure that is the end all, that's the end of where we are. Everything, certainly my exposure in 11 years of being on the board and previous exposure as a student, nothing ever stays the same, right? I made the comment that education is very trendy, and that where we are today is definitely not where people want to be 5 years from now, and sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. So we have a snapshot here, but what's the trajectory? And that's what we need to look at as well, is what the trajectory is that positive or not? And so we need to as a board, I think we need to understand all angles. We can disagree with it, but I think that it is important for all perspectives to be fully aired, so that, you know, agree or not, it's an understanding over agreement, perhaps.
But we do understand that there's nothing to remove. It was professional development. There's no curriculum to remove.
It is.
But there's not. I mean, like, you can say,
As a board, we approve that. As
we
a board,
approved
we
the
could potentially remove
PD,
it.
but it's not curriculum. It was simply professional development for our teachers to use tools that they learned to teach, so you could.
I understand.
No, but I guess my question is, what do you remove at that point? You'd say, what? So pretend you didn't hear it? Don't tell kids that they should be empathetic? Like, what are we removing? Because it's not curriculum.
Perhaps there are other programs that we could look at that would provide similar outcomes as to where Castle and Responsive Classroom is today, but perhaps we have more confidence that they will remain on those topics going forward. We need to have the conversation. I get it. We have differences of opinions, and we may have to agree to disagree, but it is, I do believe it's important for us to have a full conversation on this topic, so that you know, we know where we are, and we can figure out how to move forward.
I mean, I get it. I guess my confusion is that 4 of us approved it before. 4
I
of the
did,
5, 4 of us sitting here.
and I regret my vote. I will tell you, I regret my vote. I did vote in favor of it.
Good
I should have
job,
done more
Tom.
research on it. I did not. It's my bad. But I regret my vote, but I absolutely did vote to.